Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's nearly going to tick over to 12 midday here in Perth, Western Australia. It's an absolutely glorious day here in a glorious life. And I'll just have a little bit of a prattle here while I wait for some of you to come on, and also for my very special guest today, whom I'm very much looking forward to hearing her share her journey of coming from being in pain every day, not knowing which part of her body hurt the most, and varying diagnosis, which is, that's how it rolls, isn't it? You have pain in the body, you have something that's troubling you all the time. Good afternoon, Slinky. The natural thing, and I'm going to say natural and then explain that in a moment, is that we go off to the doctor. Sometimes people go to a chiropractor and maybe they'll go to a physio. But either way, when there is pain in the body and you really don't know what to do with yourself, then you'll go and find someone who is qualified to be able to help you. Most often it's a doctor, because when you don't know what's wrong and you're being sick, or you're constantly in pain, you know that there's something wrong with you, most often it will be a doctor. And the reason for that is because we've been raised to believe that when there is something wrong with us, that we go to the doctor, because the doctor is the medicine man. And how did that all come about? Well, way back in the Never Nevers, there were people who practiced with herbs, and they found that somebody got better or they died. Sometimes it was trial and error. And they also found that through the way they fed someone when they were sick, they either improved, or their fever didn't improve, or their chest didn't improve. So really from the very beginning, it was always trial and error through food and through herbs and through rest, finding that when the body was fatigued, then it can't heal, it can't get over whatever the issue is that's within it. So that's a long time ago, right? And then you have Indigenous people around the world, the Native American Indians, the Australian Aboriginal, the Zitzi people, the Tanzanians, all the different beautiful races of the world who have lived their own culture and practiced their way of making their people well, and it has always been around food and around herbs. And Hippocrates is very famous for over 2,000 years ago of saying, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And that is ever so true. So out of all of that comes the evolution of the medical world. And they started actually doing experiments in World War I, and more so into World War II. And dare I say, history, you can find this yourself in the history books, that the Nazis actually used a lot of their prisoners of war to test pharmaceuticals on them. And they had been cultivating ways with plants to find out what it was in plants that would actually help people be well, that would either help them be well or kill them, one or the other. We all know that a deadly nightshade plant is deadly, hence its name. But there are certain aspects of that plant that can actually be used to heal something that someone is experiencing. So as a result of the various testings and experiments basically that were done, the growth of the pharmaceutical world began, and the medical world in the Western world evolved more and more. And you only have to look back at Louis Pasteur to find out about pasteurization, and what he found happened with milk and milk product as a result of pasteurization. Even the mold on cheese, and they found that the bacteria in that can actually come out to be used penicillin, and so we have antibiotics coming into play with how people basically experimented to see how they could make things be different for someone who was sick. And then, of course, there had to be a name for the illness, for the disease, for the condition. So that's all excellent in theory. And of course, you know, we come to know this is our hand. So we come to know that this is a piece of paper. We're taught from little, where's your eyes, where's your nose? So everything has a name, everything has a label, so that we know what it is. So the medical world are no different. They have a label, they have a name for disease, for illness, for pain. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I began my work in health and wellness as a nurse from the age of 16, and my name is Gwenda. That pathway has evolved over 34 years, might even be 35 this year. So I have gone into different modalities over that period of time, and different studies, different certifications, but always around looking at wellness and looking at ways of being well. And if you ever come to one of my workshops, you will hear the story of what really catapulted me onto this pathway. And I always honour the lady who was on the operating table, whom I believe the experience that I had with her is how I come to venture down the path that I now still walk. It's a sad story in some ways, but it's what happened, and I always pay tribute to that beautiful lady, because without the experience I had with her, who knows where I would be sitting in this particular plane of wellness now. But to now, I say all the time, you can heal yourself. I have countless records of people over my years that have done just that. There are books everywhere that will talk to you about how someone has healed themselves or how you can heal yourself. One of the most famous names that comes to mind is H.E.A.L. And I've had many people say to me, you're like the Australian version of H.E.A.L. There's actually quite a big difference between Louise and I, but the fact is that one synergy is that she too would teach people how they can self-heal. So coming back to labels and names, what I've seen over the last many years, really more than a decade, is that if somebody is given a name of a condition that they have, so let's have a look at fibromyalgia, for example, or heart disease. These two I'll speak about, and then I'll go to another couple, and then we'll very soon be skipping over to our very special guest. The thing is with fibromyalgia, and there she is. Hi, Kelly. There she is. We're going to come and talk to you in just a moment. The thing with fibromyalgia is that the minute somebody, everyone that I've met, the minute that they have been diagnosed with that label, their whole world falls apart. And they believe that that's it, that they just have to have all this medication, that they're going to be in this never-ending cycle of pain. I will sit here today and I will tell you till I'm blue in the face that that just is not correct. Not last year, the year before and the year before, I worked with a series of young women who had all been diagnosed with severe cases of endometriosis and PCOS. Every one of them had been told they would never have a child. Last year I worked extensively with another young lady, and in her case she'd been told that she had to have a baby if she could by the time she was 28, otherwise it was never going to happen. So there's two things here with that young lady. First, she was diagnosed with extreme level of endometriosis, with the doctor saying very unlikely that you will ever have a baby. Then she was told that if she didn't have one or wasn't pregnant by the time that she was 28, she never would. Well, as I sit here talking to you today, she is actually in her 6th month of being pregnant. So it's just not so that you can't heal from things that come your way. It is an easy process. It is an easy way. There is an easy way to heal. And what Kelly's going to share with you today, I'm sure will help you see how you too have got the innate wisdom. You have got the power within you to heal. And we hope that with our chat today, we're going to share some of those insights. But Kelly's going to take you on a little bit of a journey of her journey, because as I said at the beginning, she spent every day not knowing which part of her body hurt the most. And then she had a change of heart, shall we say, in how she was going to allow that to work. So let's see if I can be a whiz with technology and bring Kelly on. So bear with me here. And we'll just bring Kelly on. And she should pop up on the screen any moment now. It's wonderful. And it says that it's... And there she is.
You did
Good
it.
afternoon, Kelly.
Oh, hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I got a bit of delay in your voice here.
Okay, yes, that will probably happen between the two of us. I think it's the way that this technology works. So, Kelly, what I'd like to do is ask you to share with everyone what your journey has been like. So, I was talking initially that you had many days where you were in pain and you didn't know which part of your body hurt the most. So if you'd like to share with us what that was like for you, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I guess the most prominent memory of that was when I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue. So yeah, I spent 8 months living in and out of bed, basically not really leaving my house because my energy was so low. And at the time, it's such a long time ago, it's actually a little difficult for me to remember exactly how it felt, which is, you know, it's a good thing in itself because I've healed so much that those memories aren't even really a residual thing for me anymore. But what I do remember is I just didn't know where to start. You know, everything hurt all the time. And I went to 3 medical practitioners who all diagnosed me with chronic fatigue, and the prognosis was that I would literally have to live with it for the rest of my life. I was even given a pamphlet that said how to live with chronic fatigue, instructing me how I was going to live with it for the rest of my life. And, you know, I turned to all sorts of medical options back then. I was interested in alternative healing, but I just was so desperate, I suppose. I leaned in on the medical world. But the whole time I was trying to find an answer and trying to get well for that 8 months, something within me just knew that it wasn't an answer outside of myself. It was something that I had to do within myself. And I can't even remember the point where I just woke up one day and thought, I'm not going to live like this anymore. And I just started taking steps, diving deeper, spending more time really trying to understand my body. I'm not really sure. It's such a long time ago, I can't even remember. So, I mean, and there's so much more since then. I ended up recovering from chronic fatigue, but in the next 15 years to follow, I still had a lot of medical issues when it came to pain in my body. A lower back injury that come up for me and put me on my butt for quite a while as well, a lower back injury. I had iron deficiency problems. I had immune system issues, lots of stress disorders and things like that. So, I mean, I guess probably the most important thing for me to share here is that I believe for 15 years I was traveling in and out of pain until 9 months ago.
And now you live a life of being a very flexible yoga instructor and a life of, would you call it inner peace? Kelly, would that be a good description?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I live a lot more present in the present moment now, and I really believe that's the key for me. It's the missing piece that a lot of us aren't moving into. I think the best way to describe the way I live now is as soon as a sensation, and I don't even like to call it pain anymore, because I feel that for a large part of us, pain is a word we throw around without a lot of thought, to be honest. And even a discomfort is leaning onto the negative edge, because sometimes the sensation in your body may not feel comfortable, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative thing. It's actually a signal for you to dive deeper and to ask your body, ask your inner wisdom, why am I in discomfort, or why have I got this sensation? And these days I feel I'm so clear that just the slightest sensation pops up in my body, and within minutes I can determine the inner process to discover exactly what's happening for me, or the block. I often say, to my clients that it's a surreal process that I'm going through at the moment. 15 years ago, I would never have imagined that I'd live like this. I couldn't decipher my head from my feet back then. It was just everything hurt. Some people that know me know that I even dived into self-harm and suicide and things like that, because I just felt there was nowhere to go with it. I just felt like I couldn't beat it. But something within me kept driving me onwards, deciding that wasn't an option, that there was things I needed to learn, that I knew I could heal. I am also a really big fan of H.E.A.L. She's probably one of the places I started with my healing journey, started to use her affirmations and look up my body parts and almost like try to map my body. Like I was just trying to figure out, but there was so much going on that I often couldn't decide whether I was going down a rabbit hole or, one part of the body against the other. So I think I just had to look at myself as a whole and start to work from the inside. So I really sort of cleared my body up nutritionally, and then started working a lot deeper with my mindset. And then obviously my physical pain. It's just such a big story. So if you want to lead me to what you'd like to hear about the most, it would be probably, otherwise we might be here for a few hours. My story's a really long one.
I think it's wonderful for everyone to hear that, Kelly, and this is the whole idea of these interviews that I'm running a series of interviews, and I'm very keen to speak to people like yourself that have come to a place of knowing that healing comes from within, and that it's not something special for just one person or two people. It's that we all have that innate wisdom to be able to heal. But would you agree that it's a much more challenging journey than just popping some tablets or relying on medication?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that you teach and that you say in the world. I feel the journey of self-healing is a courageous one, for sure. Yeah. You have to dive into places within yourself that sometimes feel so scary and so dark. And sometimes the truths that are there, the wisdom that your body's actually trying to share with you is not so kind. It's not what you want to hear. And you really have to learn to face yourself. And I'm certainly not here to say that it's an easy journey. And with my history of wanting to cop out, I've had to face that a lot. In all the courage that I've experienced through persistence, I've also had my moments where I'm like, this is enough is enough. This is too. I'm looking up at the above, saying, what the hell? I can't do this anymore. As each door opens, and I have to dive into what the pain represents, or what it is I'm not facing about myself. That's I think I didn't quite finish before, where I was saying that I often say to my clients that the signals come through so fast now. I've just cleared this vessel so much that a little bit of sensation somewhere will come into my body, and I can literally tune in and say, what is this about? And I can attach it to something I've said, thought, or done within at least 24 hours. The resistance or the negative choice or the block even, you know, like I've had a choice, had a thought, maybe it's not the right one, the block around why, what am I afraid of? And I just have this, it's almost automatic in a process now because I've just been using it for so long. And just slowing down time, being present, just asking. And I'm feeling really passionate at the moment about teaching people to use their body as a tool for healing. It's the most powerful thing we have. It's all here within this physical thing that we quite often don't honor. You know, we don't look after it, and it's the way we move around in the world, and it's so important that we start to use it as. And I like to use the analogy, you know, like we look after our cars better than we do our bodies. We won't run our car with no fuel. We won't run our car with.
Uh-oh. Have you frozen? Oh no. I'll pick up here, everyone. I can see that I'm still got some connectivity here while we wait for Kelly to be able to come back in. Obviously, something has decided that she's taking a break for a moment. So the words that Kelly was about being aware of her thoughts and being aware of where she's at in herself, the way that she is looking to her body, the way that she's working with her body. And she's so right about people look after their cars better than they do their body. And you would never run your car on crappy fuel. You would never not have your car tuned up. But so many people, when I speak to them about tuning up their body, they give me a list of supplements they're on or a list of medication that they're on, and they equate that to tuning up their body. So while I'm waiting for that to add Kelly again, it's just being a little bit slow. One of the things that Kelly mentioned was really listening to her body and how fast it is now for her to be able to feel, to understand what is happening in her body. I'm going to ask her to expand on that for you when her link gets back up again. There might be some bad weather up there. I've got a connection failed here, so we'll just keep trying until the connection wants to behave itself and bring Kelly back on. So I'm going to ask her to expand for you on how she hears her body, how she's able to have it tell her what the problem is. Hi again. Technology.
Okay.
Great,
yeah, there's resistance at its best, maybe.
So Kelly, what I was saying to everyone while we were waiting for the connection to come back is that when you came back, I'm going to ask you to expand on your comment that it comes so fast now for you to be able to hear what it is that you're experiencing. You know, neither you nor I like to use the word pain. Neither you nor I like to use words that will only emphasize the situation. But we both love to hear about how the body talks to us. So you were saying that it's so fast for you now to hear what's going on with the body. Could you give us an example of what that sounds like or what it feels like? Because so many people I speak to, the most common question I get is, but how do I know? How do I know it's my body? How do I know it's my soul talking to me? So would you like to expand on that in your experience?
Okay, so I mean, this is something that's been enhanced from my yoga practice because I spend so much time in my body on the mat. But sometimes it's as simple as a flicker, like literally a flicker, like a little shake in my body. Or sometimes my old pain comes back. So I'm constantly working with the stories that I've been holding in my hips. So sometimes I'll make a choice, or I'll feel, I'll do something that's not quite sitting well with me, obviously from within, and my lower back will just start to tighten. I've had opportunities where I might just go to dry my hair and my lower back will start to creep in. Now, before, that might have looked like me continuing to do what I'm doing and just thinking, oh, my back is really sore. But now it's slowing down. I feel into my back and I say, okay, what decisions have I made, or what am I thinking while I'm drying my hair this morning, and just start to listen to the voices. And for me, it's an audience thing. I hear my own inner wisdom in a thought that's not my thought. So, well, it is my thought, but it's a higher consciousness thought. And then I can now feel the muscles start to retract as I start to address it. It's almost like, for me, I feel that as soon as we put that attention to the part of the body that's speaking to us, it settles down anyway. It's almost like, oh, you heard me. I'm going to release you from this. Sometimes it's as simple as that, especially if you're working with the body constantly. I just feel like there's just this partnership with me and my body now. And look, that's not to say that, deeper things don't arise where I'm stuck, where I'm actually, my pelvis is misaligned again, or I have a shoulder pain or something like that, or not pain, a discomfort or a misalignment in my shoulder where it just starts to feel a bit achy. But, sometimes I quite often will ask myself, is this mine? Because as we know, we transfer energy constantly between ourselves, our family, our partners and all of that, whether they're in the same room or not, and that's something that I'm really passionate about, teaching people that connection, because a lot of the time we're experiencing pain, discomfort or sensations that aren't even ours. It's just literally that we need to clear our energy, cut the cords and all of that sort of stuff as well. So there's sort of a lot of answers to that question, but sometimes when I'm on the yoga mat, Gwenda, I can literally feel like I'm talking to my cells at a level that's so deep that I feel a bit of a crazy person even saying that out loud, but that's just where my work's led me. That's my exploration's got that deep that it just can't get any, all it can do is get deeper, because there's always layers, right? We're never, I think one of the biggest misconceptions we have is that we'll get to a destination that will heal our body, but we don't heal completely. We just move through layer after layer after layer and heal layer after layer as we hit this journey with intention and purpose, right?
Well, with your own experience, you talked about 15 years. So there's no way, and this again is a common thing I find with people, there's no way that we can go, hey, presto, in a week, 15 years has disappeared.
Yeah,
I recently
exactly.
had a lady ask me if in 3 sessions with me, she would have total clarity and all her finances would be sorted and life would be grand.
Wow.
So my response to her was, okay, so let me see, you are now 54. So we have 54 years worth of life experience and, things that go on. And you've had children in that time. So we have all different energies going on and a marriage or so there. And so in 3 hours, basically, you feel that you would be able to understand yourself of 54 years worth of accumulative experiences and decisions, and you could do that in 3 hours, sure. So,
Yeah.
as you say, it's not like that. But what I would like people to understand is that when you start the healing journey and you start to do that inward work, pain does fall away, does it not, Kelly?
Yeah, I think the
Pain does.
commitment to it. Yeah.
The commitment to the pain. That is a great sentence.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so right. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
will fall away, and you will notice that parts of your body will feel lighter, more flexible. It'll feel revitalized in only 24 hours. But the underlying issue, the story, as you call it, that's not going anywhere in 24 hours, is it, Kelly?
No, absolutely. And I love that you address the idea that, you know, there's a whole, my journey didn't start till I was 32. So that's when I got diagnosed with chronic fatigue. So that's, yeah, 32 years of my life before that, and everything I'd stored down. And you know, I come from an upbringing of don't cry or I'll give you something to cry for. So my emotional expression was always held back. And if you don't let that energy out, where is it going to go? It's got to store somewhere, and it's going to cause blocks and discomfort. And there's 32 years of that. So, you know, and those parts of you get pretty comfortable being like that. They don't want to shift if you're not committed to shifting them. And I find I think one of the most important things I'd really like to share is that it's never too late to start this journey. Absolutely. If you could have, you start when you're 50 odd, and you're going to get 20, 30 years of release and more freedom in your body, or, you know, revitalization, then it's worth going through the journey. And like you said, I just feel once you make that commitment, and I really believe, actually, now that you're speaking, we're talking about this, I can hear quite clearly that that's when things changed for me, is when I decided I'm not doing this anymore. I got asked to take medication and all sorts of things for my issues along the journey over and over. That was the first thing that was suggested by doctors, but I refused. And I just one day woke up and said, enough's enough. And I've just got to start to do this. And you know, there's so many people often ask me, how did you heal your chronic fatigue? There's not a simple answer for that. I just say to people, I took it one step at a time. And sometimes those steps felt like they were taking forever, but all the wisdom and the learning I've gained along the way, I would never go back in time and wish I didn't go through the journey I went through. I couldn't be here teaching what I'm teaching and sharing what I'm sharing if I hadn't been through that journey. And then once you sort of get traction on that, and you realize there's all these wonderful lessons, and you start getting those ahas about yourself, and you start learning more and more about yourself, there's a curiosity. And that for me was the change, that I stepped into a state of curiosity where I was like, wow, what's this about? Or what's this about? Or what's my headache about? What's this pain about? And the answers are interesting, fascinating, sometimes not so welcoming. But once you start to look at your body as a big journey and a map, and just start to really want to figure yourself out, that it can be fun, actually.
It is. And one of the things I say to people all the time is, to me, it's the most amazing journey you can ever take. You can go to see the pyramids, you could fly to the moon if you like, you could go on all sorts of holidays, but they don't last. You walk around with yourself every day of your life, and you're stuck with yourself, with your body every day of your life. So to me, that journey of really getting to understand you is the most amazing thing you can do for yourself, and it's the most incredible journey that you can take. It's it's more liberating. Would you agree that you feel like you have more freedom? It's so much more easy to be happy. It's so much more easy to rise above challenges. And you were talking about, you know, listening to your body and it talking back to you. That relationship is just perfect. But it's also that your body is your messenger. Would you, after the experiences you've had in this last 9 months, do you think that's a fair analogy, that your body is a messenger of your soul? So when your body is screaming in pain, or it's got you hooked up here like this, it's actually your soul trying to reach through to you, and the only way that you'll stop and listen is pain.
Yeah, absolutely. So I became completely pain-free within 24 hours of facing some really deep resistance within my body. I might as well share that story, I suppose. So I don't want to get too personal about the situation of what, but basically, in a nutshell, I had a really deep fear that I didn't even really know it was there, to an extent. You know, like once I realized I had such a deep fear, I was almost surprised that I discovered this festering fear. And I confronted that fear. I spoke aloud, I became vulnerable, and I expressed how I felt to a person who was very, very important to me, with the risk of rejection. I did get rejected. But I woke up 24 hours later with no pain, and I haven't had the pain for 9 months. I've had sensations and signals around my body, but I've never experienced the density and the pain that I've experienced. And that pain was on and off for a really long time. You know, like when I worked as a personal trainer, I was sore all the time. I had DOMS all the time, and I was tired and heavy and sluggish all the time, even though I ate really well. You know, I'm a really clean eater. I did everything right. I exercised. I did everything right. And I was still dense and painful. Then even as a yoga teacher, I had someone say to me one day, for a yoga teacher, you're sore a lot. And I was stretching a lot, sometimes twice a day with 2 classes a day. And I was still sore all the time. There was just always something lingering within my body. And that's not to say it was horrific. It was just literally, God, my shoulder or my leg. Yep. After I faced that moment of vulnerability and risked being rejected, even though I got rejected, the rejection wasn't even that bad. It was like, okay. Because I woke up 24 hours with no pain, and it was worth it. It was worth putting myself out there. And that came from the heart. That was a rejection. That was a heart situation. So, you know, a lot of it's here, right? And that vulnerability, you can't heal without vulnerability. And yeah. And so, 9 months of no pain. It's been an amazing time because I can hear myself clearly. I don't have the bogged down pain. I can hear all of the underlying stuff and the little signals that come up to remind me sometimes that maybe I'm heading in that direction again. Maybe I am fearful, or maybe a decision needs to change, or maybe I need to actually feel my feelings. That quite often happens if I haven't sat with myself for long enough. My body will present a discomfort or some sort of pain. I keep saying that word because you're so used to hearing it, even though I don't like it. Some sort of sensation will come up to say, Kelly, take some time. Have a cry, sit with this, let it out, do some more yoga, you know, whatever it is, go to the beach. Because we get wrapped up, you know, I do all the right things, but of course I get wrapped up and preoccupied like anybody. I'm only human.
It's never about not doing the right thing, is it? It's about listening. And the fact is, as I was saying about the lady who thought that she could fix 54 years worth of life experiences in 3 hours, she may have another, if she's lucky, she may not have another 40 years to go. So you're still going to have these occurrences during whatever time frame of your life that you're in. The difference is how you listen is how you will heal. So for you and the way that you're living now and the difference that you make, you're not going to go back to having a body that is racked in pain constantly, and a body that gives you so much grief. I'm going to come to that word in a minute too. You will now be able to release that, as you say, automatically. And that's the difference, because that's where the learning comes in, and that's where the understanding of yourself comes in. So it's never about, oh, I'm healed, da-da, there's nothing else for me to see here now, there's nothing else for me to do. No. Oh, hello. Sorry, but life's got a whole different little store caught up for you, and there is going to be more for you to see and more for you to experience. But you know now how to work with the wisdom from within to go, okay, so what is this experience about? What is this that I'm sensing? And is it mine? As you said, a very valuable comment. Is it mine, or is it someone else's? And someone else, people, that someone else could be living over the other side of the world. If you don't understand energy and how powerful energy is, then I suggest you have a chat with us or someone like us, because energy is massive. And if I put it into maybe a three-dimensional mind example, how do you think that you are able to watch this or be on a phone on one side of the world talking to someone on the other side of the world? It's called energy. So, and energy, we are energy. So it works exactly the same for us as us being on the phone. Kelly, there is some wonderful words that you've used there: rejection, vulnerability, and listening. How many people don't know how to listen? Yeah. Did you hear what I said? Yeah, I heard what you said, and then they go off on a different tangent. So no, they weren't listening. So if they're not listening outwardly, they're certainly not going to be listening inwardly. But
Yeah.
words like rejection, vulnerability, grief, all those sort of things, would you agree that they are incredible traps of ways of trapping energy in the body?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Resistance,
absolutely.
resistance, refusal,
Mm-hmm.
rejection, fear are
Yep.
the things that that really get the body knotted up, and most often, bless our cotton socks, we're not even aware. As you said yourself, you didn't realize what was way down in there. So
Yep.
bravery and courage, and I often say in my programs, you need courage to work with me, and I think you would agree with that. That
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it takes courage
Absolutely. Yeah.
to do this
Absolutely.
and to really face yourself. And you've got a line that you say, I no longer choose to believe in pain. And believe is one of my all-time favourite words. So you say that, don't you? I no longer
Mm-hmm.
choose to believe in pain. Would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, that's simply it, right? It's only, and I mean, of course, it's because of my own journey, because I don't have the pain anymore. Um, I can teach that to people because I'm, you know, quite often when I'm talking to somebody about my story, I just feel that, you know, I often say to them, you know, it's not like I was struck with some amazing, I don't know, magic wand from the sky or some amazing experience to say, oh my God, I woke up and I was enlightened and I discovered all of this stuff. It was
Ta-da!
literally, it was like, look, it was a tedious 15 years. It was long. It was one day at a time. It was one step at a time with lots and lots of back steps. But those back steps become less and less because your momentum gathers. And I think that, as we said before, once you set the intention, once you commit to healing your body will respond with thank you. Thank you. You're going to listen to me. Oh my God, damn, about time. This is what it's here for. The messages come in and the body interprets them, and then we let in what we let in, which is not always what we need to let in. And then we need to let go of what we need to let go. And that's the hardest part, letting go, surrendering. I often say to people, you know, I just, because I've been on the journey I've been on, I just find it so fascinating that, and I'm still trying to learn to let go, which, and you know, people that know me know that I talk about that a lot, which is because I'm still learning it. But, you know, the easiest thing to do is to let go. If we were having a tug of war and we're holding on a piece of rope and we're struggling, the easiest thing is to let go. Yet the last choice we'll make is to let go. And it's so weird and just mind-boggling, but why we just don't do that. We hold on to everything. We try to control everything, you know, and we're not here for that. We're here to surrender, to flow, to be in the moment, to be present. And I feel amazed that I'm sitting here saying this out loud at 44 years old. It's, you know, someone might say I'm a slow learner, but, you know, I'm grateful that I've learned it now. I've got so much of my life ahead of me and I'm living pain-free and I'm experiencing things that I'd never thought I could experience in my own daily life. There's so many, you know, blessings from being in the moment. Things are coming in, manifestations are happening. I'm living the life that I've always wanted, working for myself, doing only things I love. You know, life's abundant. I have everything I need. And as you were saying before, the learning and the journey that we take, we're with ourselves all the time. This is it, you know, and what we don't take any of the rest of it with us. We take our wisdom with us when we go. And so why are we not spending more time on that?
Yeah, exactly. And why aren't the schools bringing it in? You know, if the children were taught these things early. However, from a spiritual point of view, I would say that if we are taught these things too early, then we would not have the
Have the learning.
experiences. I think it's a little bit of a parity there, and we need to do that. The other thing that I wanted you to talk about is the varying degrees of pain, because you know, how people sense things and how people work with things is always individual. because we are individuals. So two people, well, actually, I'll give a different example. When I was nursing, we would have 4-bed wards, and in that ward, there would be a lady that had come in to have her breasts augmented, which meant shrunk. The lady next to her would actually be having a breast off because of a tumour, cancer. The lady across from her would actually be having her breasts pumped up because they weren't big enough. And then the lady on the other side, on the 4th bed, was actually having both her breasts off because of aggressive cancer. And I'll use those words carefully because of my beliefs around cancer. But in her mind, and because that she'd been told that it was an aggressive cancer, who do you think we gave the most pain medication to?
Don't know. It's not going to be the obvious one.
Who's the obvious one?
I've forgotten all 4 scenarios. Sorry. The one
Anybody in the audience, would you like to vote? Sorry?
The one that was having them removed? Cancer?
The lady who was having the 2 breasts removed had the most amount of pain medication. The lady that was having the 1 breast removed had the second highest amount. The lady who was having her boobs pumped up, nothing. Not one needle, not one tablet of pain. And I'm going to let you and the audience think about that, because what we're talking about here today is the power of the mind. And it's not just the mind, it's the soul and it's the subconscious mind. So the lady that was having her boobs pumped up, she couldn't wait to see what they were going to be like. And she was so excited to have boobs because she hadn't had them before and she hated these things that hung down. So as soon as she was awake, and I was a scrub nurse, for those of you who don't know me, as soon as she was awake, she just wanted to show the world her new boobs. There was nothing about needing so much as even a Panadol. But the other ladies were having pain injections of pain medication every couple of hours, every 3 hours. Now, the one lady I didn't talk about was the one who was having her breasts reduced, so having a breast augmentation. She was really interesting. If the lady who had both breasts removed was crying, the lady who was having the augmentation needed pain medication. When the lady who had both breasts removed was calm, that lady required no painkiller. If the lady who had the 1 breast off started talking about, didn't know what she was going to do with only 1 breast, she was going to be lopsided, didn't know what life was going to be like, the lady having the augmentation would throw up, she would be sick, she would be beside herself, and she would cry and cry and cry, and she would actually have to have a sedative, not for pain, but to calm her down. So energy, being affected by other people, but also how you are perceiving whatever it is that's coming into your life, or whatever it is that's going on, will create massive ripples of emotional impact and pain and resistance in the body. And before I move back to you, Kelly, one other note here is it'll be interesting to see if I get any kickback from this, but I did it, so people want to take me on, they can take me on. If we had people come into hospital that we knew really didn't need pethidine or morphine or Omnipod, which are Schedule 8 addictive drugs, but they are the high-level painkillers, they would be allowed to have an initial injection. But after that, their injections were sterile water. And it was very funny watching people be off their head and seeing pink elephants flying around the room when they'd been injected with sterile water. So once again, the power of the mind, the acceptance, and that's one word you haven't used, and I'm going to ask you to use now. We've talked about resistance, pain, rejection, things like that. And lifetime of learned behaviours. But what can you say about acceptance, Kelly, when it comes to your path of healing?
That's so interesting. Obviously, everything's divine timing. But I was literally speaking to someone the other day saying that I'm so aware of the idea that radical self-acceptance is a big piece of healing as well. You really have to accept everything that's happening for you in the moment to be able to process it completely. If you're not accepting it, you're not going to see that it's there. I will share that another way I see an indication for me that there's something that I need to look at is that I look and see myself differently in the mirror, and I feel my body differently. So the way I've explained it sometimes is when I've felt that there's emotions that are coming up and I may not identify them yet, but I can feel the energy rising. It's like it's rising from within me to the surface of my body. And normally always hits, for me, it hits my hips and my legs first, because that's the areas of things that I'm working on a lot deeper. And I'm not joking you, I can get out of bed in the morning and feel like I'm 10 kilos heavier. And people that know me laugh and go, where exactly is that 10 kilos? But I'm not joking you. And I say to them, if I'm really in the moment and I get up and I feel that and I think, Jesus Christ, I've put on some weight, which I haven't, ridiculous, but it's energy. I will look into the mirror and I will see myself differently. I can catch my thoughts in the mirror that say, you're fat, or some old belief system, because I had a lot of weight issues when I was younger. I was overweight and had eating disorders and things like that. But I can catch those thoughts with the feeling. And then when I go and do some yoga and I shift the energy, I'm back, brushing my teeth, looking in the mirror, and I'm not even judging anymore. It's incredible. Like when we're that present, if you can be that present and pick up those things, you look at yourself with fascination. It's mind blowing. Just what is going on in here? It's absolutely mind blowing. And 99% of the time, we're unaware of all of this. And
Yep.
Once you become aware, it's one of those things too, though. Once you open yourself up to the idea of healing and the commitment and the acceptance that you are as you are, and you've got these layers, and that any little hurdle is just a hurdle, and you just start embracing all of that, you can't go back. You can't go back to shutting it all out again. You'll always be aware, and your life will put you on a trajectory that you can't get off. So I think I heard Abraham Hicks talk about that once, and they said there was no warning for you guys when you came into the room that you will walk out different and you can't go back after this, or something like that. And I had to laugh, because I remember being like in my 20s when I started my spiritual development, and someone said, once you open the door, you can never shut it again. And I was like, okay. But that's where the state of curiosity comes in. And once you start to see that everything you discover about yourself is exciting and interesting and amazing, and you start to learn about the body, and there's so much more going on than the muscles and it's just, it blows me out every day that this thing we have here works by itself, it breathes by itself, and it just does all these, things by itself to create homeostasis that we have no input into whatsoever. And that's amazing, right?
It is, but we manage to halt its ability to do all those wonderful things because we listen to this too much, or we listen to someone else in our ear, or we listen to the impact of the media, or anything that's external. And you're just making my heart sing, because what you were saying about this journey and being able to feel into and find how incredible your body is, that's exactly right. It is amazing, and it's just a vehicle for you to travel in this world. And when you start this kind of journey, everything else around you, would you agree, Kelly, takes a different colour, takes a different vibration, it takes a different feeling and everything. Once you know how to be present in yourself and how to really listen internally, the way things look on the outside changes immensely, as does what comes to you. As you said, you have abundance now. And Sabrina, thank you very much. We're very glad you're enjoying it. Sabrina says this is great. So thank you, Sabrina. And we're very pleased to hear too. We could probably talk all day because Kelly and I share very similar, if not the same, approach to life. But Kelly's journey in her health and wellness has been a really tough one for her pretty much all of her life. Is that fair to say, Kelly? It's been
Yeah,
a long path.
yeah, yeah.
But,
And you know,
but now,
I don't think the physical elements were as tough as the emotional elements. I did a speech once about my journey, and one of my friends who's been with me for quite a large part of it, she said to me afterwards that what she heard was the loneliness. And it wasn't until then that when she reflected that back to me that I now realized that the loneliness in the journey was the toughest, the emotional part, because we do feel alone when we've got our own stuff going on and we're doing our healing. And I think that's where, you know, this is so important. What you and I are doing is to understand that people don't have to be alone. I mean, we are alone all the time. We've only got ourselves, and we've got to embrace that. But you're not alone on your journey, you know. And I mean, I know that when I was going through the depth of mine, we weren't as open to this stuff back then. I didn't have that many people in my community that I could talk to about the weird things that were going on for me. You know, back then it was, for me to be so connected, I mean, I shut that down my entire life because I was a weirdo. My youngest brother used to say to me, oh, you're so freaking emotional and you're just a weirdo sometimes, you know. And I'd be like, so I shut it all down, and it didn't do me any good. It was a disservice to myself back then, but I was young, and that's part of the journey as well as the awakening and all of that. But you're not, you know, no one's alone now, and nothing can't be, like, you know, you're out there expressing to the world that everything can be healed. And I totally believe you with 100%, and only because I've done it myself over and over and over again. Lots of different areas. Chronic fatigue was only one part of it. I had extreme leaky gut. Extreme. I couldn't even have a smoothie without ending up in hospital with food poisoning. So, and I couldn't eat and all sorts of stuff. So, and then all of the other emotional stuff that came, panic disorder, anxiety, depression, whatever. So, and it's all not there anymore because I've just taken the steps every single day. And anyone can do it. I'm just a normal girl who's, like I said, no magic wand, no insightful information, just literally reading, resourcing, going within, doing all my own work day by day by day. That's it.
Yeah. And that's what it takes, and that's the most important thing, and that's what I'd like everyone to understand, is that the healing is for everyone. It's not secular, it's not exclusive, it is for everyone. But the journey of healing must be looked at as something that you're excited about. It must be looked at as something as, wow, I'm amazing. I'm learning so much about me. I want to know more about who I am, and make it the most amazing journey you will ever travel in this life. And that's what will get you healed, and that's what will help you understand more about the unique, incredible person that you are. Kelly, I can't thank you enough for sharing with us today and being here. And actually, I might talk to you about coming back another time to talk about some things on shall we say, the spiritual side of things. Oh, yes. And
Sure.
really dig into some great stuff there. Thank you, Carol.
Well, Gwenda,
she is, isn't she? She's awesome.
Gwenda, I'd like you to address something. You know my thoughts, but I think coming from you, it's more powerful. The idea that there's a destination for your healing as well. You know, the idea that one day I will be. It's not. There's not that, right? It's healing is moving through something continually. There's not I will be healed, right?
No, because as I was saying before, if you're 30 and you've been graced with passing from this world at 78, you've still got 48 years of experiences. You've still got 48 years of life to be either knocked off the edge with it or learn to go with the flow and heal through each of those experiences. I'm 60 in July. Whoa, go me. Wow, 60 in July. I can't believe it.
Oh, you only look...
and, yeah, I know. So don't for a minute think that you get to 60 and everything's honky-dory, because it's not, because life will throw some other thing for you to go, oh, what now? But instead of
Yep.
going, oh, woe is me, and this hurts and that hurts, it's what now and what can I learn? And practicing as I teach, like you with your questions, Kelly, if I have a pain, if I have a resistance going on in my body, I will say, who is this? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask, who is bringing me that pain?
Mm-hmm.
Who is creating that? And then my next question is, what is this pain? And
Mm-hmm.
you see, people, what I mean by that is, who is this? Because usually, if you're feeling pain or you're feeling angst in your body, it's because there is something external to you that you are responding to, you are reacting to. So when I say, who is this? I'm asking my inner wisdom to tell me, what is it that has captured my attention and is pulling me away, wanting me to look at something else? Then when I've got what it is, I then say, what is this pain? Because it will then come up as the emotion. And then I can understand what is the emotion that I need to deal with and understand why it's perched where it is in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Because your lower back, your ovaries as a woman, your testes as a man, you know, all that lower area is about our survival. It's about our ability to ground and feel safe and secure. But if you go to a lady a little bit higher up in the midsection, it's all about our nurture, our sense of being nurtured. But everyone goes, nurture me, nurture me, nurture me, instead of going, I nurture me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then when they come to their heart, oh, I just want someone to love me. I want someone to love me, instead of going to my heart where there is peace and where there is eternal love.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to work that way, no matter what age you are and where you are in your life, that's where you're always going to heal. And I'm
Yeah.
speaking to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing the answers are always within you, not outside of you, and that there's no one's responsible for any of it except you. Self-responsibility
No
is a
matter
big
what
piece
someone
as
else
well.
has done,
Yeah.
yeah, no matter what someone else has done, they're not responsible. They might have triggered something, but they're not responsible for whatever you've got going on.
Yeah, that's a big
So
piece. That's a tough one.
on that note, Kelly, I'm going to leave you and everyone with,
Thank you.
I would say, nourish your mind, nourish your soul, and nurture your body. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds great. The body's the map. The body's the most powerful tool that you have for self-healing. I swear to God, I feel like I need to make a bumper sticker for that.
So, Kelly, thank you so much for being here, and everyone that's come on this afternoon, and thank you for your
Yeah,
lovely
thanks
comments,
everyone.
Bianca. Thank you. Yeah, we could talk all day, Bianca, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, thank you, Kelly. I'll be catching up with you soon, love.
Yeah,
Good afternoon,
definitely.
everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
Bye.